are you?
Good.
Gameface Trion.
Dude, this thing looks sick.
So, it's a Springer with short darts. Got a thin walled pusher so you can load it. Slam fire. Let me give you a new mag and let you try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. That's crazy, man. Thank you for allowing me to try it.
Yeah, no problem.
6 months later.
It's here, the Gameface Trion. Let's get into it. First things first, I don't always cover the box, but when the box is cool or collectible, I usually do say something about it. And in this case, it's not necessarily a collectible thing, but it is a cool thing. So this has some FPS claims of 130, 160, and 200 FPS respectively. And that's going to be based on its spacer system. We'll get into that in just a second. But I really like the contrast on this box, particularly in this red version. Now, this blaster does come in another color option, which is the teal. It's more of like this, you know, bluish, greenish, light color that's right here. And everywhere that it would be red, and on the box and on the blaster, it would be teal. Which is a cool color. It's the one that you've probably already seen from a lot of the other measure creators like, you know, Drac or Coop in their reviews. So, what comes in the box? Well, it's mostly assembled for you already when you open it up. So this time we're going to more disassemble it. Starting off at the top of the blaster, we've got a 2-to-1 iron sight. It's very minimal. Attached to a full length of Picatinny rail. We've got an included foregrip here that's like an angled foregrip. It does have Picatinny underneath so that you can swap that out. We've got M-Lock on the side here so that you can either attach other M-Lock compatible accessories, or you can attach some more Picatinny here and continue with some of your favorite attachments. Moving down the side here, we've got a massive breech window, which is something I don't think anybody's been talking about. And I'll explain why that's amazing in a second. We've also got a half-length exclusive magwell here with a mag release, very clicky trigger, safety, basically this whole thumb hole stock area, which is adjustable in different increments and completely removable. To reveal one of the more interesting features about this blaster, an included spacer system. So this one doesn't have anything in it right now, but in your packaging you'll find 2 spacers behind the regular package. So you have to open the box completely. It took me a minute to find mine. That being said, if you didn't like this, there are screws and clips here to allow you to detach this whole system and put a new grip here and attach whatever stock you want to the buffer tube underneath. It also has this muzzle up in front that is detachable. This is a proprietary twist lock pattern, and when I initially saw this blaster at FoamCon, the lovely people working there at the booth did say that there would be some options for some kind of rifling attachment in the future. But yeah, overall, this blaster's design language is very, very sleek, and I like that. It feels thin and small, but not fragile, and that's something I liked from the very first moment I saw it. Also, like I mentioned before, I really like how massive this breech window is. Like, this is a really good thing for a lot of reasons, and it reveals another feature on there, which is a skinny pusher, which is a great feature that is very popular in the aftermarket, and a lot of 3D printed blasters are designed with something like this in mind, which is really helpful when you go to put on the included mag, because you don't have to prime the blaster back in order to slide this in. You can just pull it in and out as you please. The mag seems to be the same color whether you buy the red or the tealish variant. It's completely opaque on one side with this, like, I don't know, dark blue, I would say, and completely clear on the other side, which is pretty cool if you want to see what your ammo count is looking like. Speaking of ammo, you get 15 of these included in the box. And like mentioned before, it comes with 2 spacers in the box. When the blaster is completely assembled, you simply use this button right here to remove the stock and reveal a twistable rod that you can pull out and slide on 1 or 2 spacers. Push it back in, and now you've got pre-compression to make this blaster shoot even harder. Now the blaster itself is cross-compatible with other mags, like the hobby standard worker mag. And because it uses the same geometry and catch point, it's also compatible with the takoyaki mags, which just have a wider feed lip and a higher capacity. But interestingly enough, it's also compatible with these Dart Zone Pro mags. And that's because the magwell itself is very similar in design to the Dart Zone Pro mag adapters, which I'm not sure if you can see, feature two separate catch points in there to make them compatible with both katanas and worker mags, as well as their own magazines. And since this features those two same catch points, it fits all of those magazines. And I just don't think that particular feature is getting enough love in the reviews that I have seen. But that also means that this mag can be used in Dart Zone half-length products as well. Now it's time to take this thing out on the range and see if the claims on the box match the blaster. Alright, we've got 5 of the darts from the Trion loaded in this mag here, and 0 spacers loaded into the blaster itself. We're going to see how the FPS is. 151, 157, 153, 127, and 138. So no spring spacer in there. It's actually performing significantly higher than what's claimed on the box. So I have a theory that these are going to be like the bamboo darts in that they weigh less than the average 1 gram dart, which allows them to get higher initial velocity. But we're going to grab some of the Worker Gen 3s and see how they compare. 128, 114, 109, 133, 130. Next, we're going to throw a spacer in there and do the same test again. 197, 193, 194, 189, and 190. That's only 1 spring spacer. Like, that's shooting way hotter than I expected. I think we can expect to see in the like 215 plus range out of Gameface darts and 2 spacers. That's pretty wild. Let's see how it holds up with worker darts. 170, 159, 176, 163, and 172. Next, we're gonna do the same test, but we're gonna throw the second spacer in there as well and see what holy hell this thing's ready to unleash on us. 221, 229, 223, 225, and 222. Jesus. Not a single shot under 220. Well, let's see how it goes with the worker darts though. 192, 177, 193, 188, 184. So yeah, there was a very stark contrast. Let's head back inside and we'll talk about the differences. Alright, so as we already knew, the spring spacers gave us a lot of options, and testing both kind of darts is going to give us a lot of data. So forgive me if this part's a little dragged out, but if you care about the nitty-gritty details like I do, then you'll want to stick around for the next part. With the included darts and no spring spacer, we had a low of 127, a high of 157, and an average of 145. Now with the worker darts and no spring spacer, we have a low of 109, a high of 133, and an average of 123. So with its own darts, it definitely delivers what's promised on the box, and with heavier darts like the worker darts, it provides pretty darn close to what's promised. 123 average is pretty good. Moving on to its included darts and 1 spring spacer. In my opinion, this was the total upset in the entire testing. I was not expecting this, but we had a low of 189 and a high of 197 with an average of 193. Keep in mind, the on-box promise is 160 average. This is performing a whole 33 FPS above its claim, which is absolutely astounding. Now with the 1 spacer and moving over to another dart like the worker dart, we get a low of 159, a high of 176, and an average of 162. So pretty much on par with claims. With 2 spring spacers and its included ammo, this thing comes in hot at 221 on the low end and 229 on the high end, with an average of 224 FPS. That is much hotter than it says on the box. But when we switched over to the Gen 3s, with this same double spring spacer setup, we got a low of 177 and a high of 193, leaving us an average in the high 180s, like 187, I think. Like, that's a huge gap from one type of dart at 220s to another part in the 185s. And I think that's part of the important conversation of dart weight that we need to have at some point. Even though Bamboo's performed similarly in the 1.2, it was hitting 190s, which was a much closer to the claim of 200 with other darts. From previous tests, we know that lighter darts tend to be less accurate than heavier darts. So I want to see with these new darts if that holds true as well. So let's get back out on the range and do some accuracy testing. We're shooting here from somewhere between 55 and 60 feet, so let's go ahead and see how this goes. Miss, hit, hit, miss, miss. So with no spring spacer, it has the range to hit that 50 feet, and it hit the target every time, but it didn't actually get inside. Time to do it with one spacer. Miss, miss, hit, hit, hit. Now I'm gonna put the stock back on as well, because it's gonna be a little bit harder to prime this. Hit, 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 hit. That last one really ran into the stratosphere. All right, so now we're gonna switch to the worker darts. Hit, miss, hit, hit, miss, miss, hit, 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 miss. You might be wondering why I don't have the stock on. It's because I've been changing the spacers out a crap ton for this test, and surprisingly, without a stock, it still braces pretty good. But yeah, anyways, let's finish this up. Hit, hit, miss, miss, miss. All right, let's head inside and I'll give you my final thoughts. In this head-to-head battle between these two dart types in this blaster, the blaster itself doesn't have any kind of rifling attachment. This is the accuracy of the blaster on its own, which actually goes to show the consistency of the blaster rather than show any weaknesses in the darts. Hitting across the board, no matter what dart type or spring spacer, average around 3 out of 5 shots is just pretty good. I mean, it's on par with my feelings on something like the Jurassic Pro or the Mark 1.2 in terms of accuracy. Now, that being said, I don't think that I've mentioned its retail price yet. It is $80, which might seem expensive, or it might seem cheap depending on what side of the spectrum you're on in this hobby. But there are a lot of things to consider about this blaster when you consider that price. Now, a lot of people are comparing this to a Nexus Pro. I have one, and I can say that at this point, if you were gonna buy a Nexus Pro, I think the Nexus Pro still has its place at its $40, $60, and $70 price tags respectively for the different colorways. But I think most people, especially a little older players, should seriously consider this before that. I realistically don't even think you should necessarily be comparing this to that. In fact, I think it's a more fair comparison to compare to something like the Dartzone Pro Mark 1.2, which is capable of that similar performance level in the 200s. Now, that blaster originally was $120. Now, it went on sale for $99 around the holidays, and it hasn't seemed to come off of sale. So I'm gonna have to say that that's possibly the new price of the blaster, and if so, again, a much more comparable blaster to this one. Some of the pros of this over a Mark 1.2, in my opinion, are gonna be its solid body design. Although the ability to disassemble the blaster is cool, it does leave for some rigidity issues. That being said, it also has a stock that fully functions, has a massive breach window, and it's very modular and easy to change out your spring settings for different game types. Some pros for the Mark 1.2 are the massive plunger volume, which leaves a lot of untapped potential on the table in the Mark 1.2. I think when modded, this won't be as capable of a high FPS as that will be. This is still much higher than a Nexus. Another downside for this blaster versus that one is the ability currently to attach rifling. This right here is a proprietary design, and although at the booth at FoamCon Gameface did make some claims about both aftermarket and first-party options for rifling for this. They haven't done anything yet with it with the release to my knowledge. If there is something, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. But in the meantime, that to me is its biggest drawback right now. I did see something Silly Butts was working on to like insert a little rifling attachment into this muzzle, which is kind of cool. There's not a lot of information on it yet, but that is an option. A couple other nice little things about the blaster that I had forgot to mention is that it has a flared mag well. Something that's super helpful about this breech window that I really liked is your ability to see when priming if there is or is not a dart in there. So I really appreciate that about blasters like this, but also that this window is so big that you could load a dart from it. Like, that's cool. So if you need to get in to get jams, this is gonna be no problem whatsoever. I also wanted to mention that on Amazon, there's actually a pre-order listing for these darts that will be shipping on February 12th. So if you want to get refills of these exact darts, you're more than able to. Just not quite yet. And I think that'll be interesting. I'd love to see how this dart does in another blaster that does have rifling in it. That's got me thinking. Maybe I should do a head-to-head best half dart in 2023 comparison. Would you guys want to see that? Let me know down in the comments. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for this review. And as per usual, I'm going to leave things off with some footage of me playing with this blaster. I know people are saying that it has a lot of hype, but I would say at this point the hype is real. It's not the best blaster to ever come out, but it's such a good, refined version of what it is. It's definitely setting a good pace for releases in 2023. I can't wait to see what other amazing things that this company and other companies choose to do this year. But until next time on the King of Games, have a blast.
Your boy got the drip with the new Tayaki Mags 2.0.
Ready? Yep.
Ready. Oh, hit.
10, 11,
Oh, I got you in the back. Clear it on the right side.
Wait, behind me.
What? Oh.